Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward, and this is Face to Face. Our guest this week is Cree-Saulteaux performer and playwright Darla Contois. Contois is from Misipawistik Cree Nation in Manitoba, and she recently starred in the acclaimed miniseries Little Bird about the 60s scoop. In October 2023, the Canada Council of the Arts named Contois' play The War Being Waged as one of the finalists for the 2023 Governor General's Literary Awards. Darla, thanks so much for being with us this week on the show.
Cool, thanks for having me.
My mom is going to be super excited about this, as am I. It's been a pretty exciting year for you, I would imagine. How would you describe this past year?
I would describe it as a whirlwind. I have no idea what's happening. I'm just along for the ride.
We'll start with maybe some of your more recent news, and that's that you were shortlisted for the prestigious Governor General Literary Awards. How great was that news to get?
I don't think I quite understand what it is to be on this level of recognition quite yet. Like, I get the news and I'm like, wow, that's amazing, but I don't exactly understand what it means at the time. And I'm only now learning just how people are responding to it, that it was a really big deal. And I'm really excited and happy about it.
Do you think it's all just going to hit you one day, everything that's happened?
I don't know. Maybe when I'm old and, reflecting on my life, I'll understand a bit more how it affected me. But right now I'm just kind of enjoying it.
Yeah, lots to enjoy. So you were shortlisted for The War Being Waged. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, The War Being Waged is my first published drama series play that was performed and produced by the Prairie Theatre Exchange here in Winnipeg. And yeah, it's a story about a family, I think. That's how I, equate the experience of the play.
Do you want to elaborate on what it's all about?
It's actually about a relationship between a brother and a sister. And it's sort of a story that's told from the future perspective of the sister, and then it goes back into, how their relationship and what happened between them sort of affected her in her life later.
Like you mentioned, first off, it was previously also nominated for 2 other awards, Manitoba Book Awards. You've said that the story was incredibly personal to you. How so?
Well, obviously I'm in the arts, and I have a brother who is with the Canadian Forces, so it's just kind of an imagining of how I picture our relationship turning out, maybe in a different reality or maybe in some place that's different.
Usually I see a lot of the stuff that goes on at Prairie Theatre Exchange. Somehow I missed this production. I think it was kind of pretty peak COVID-y times.
Yeah,
there.
It was a really weird time because it was right in the middle of getting a break from COVID. The first time we had 2 months or 2 weeks, I think it was a break from COVID, and we managed to get the show on its feet at 50% capacity in person at the Prairie Theatre Exchange, which I was really thankful for, but it was just so lucky. And I think people were still, experiencing a lot of anxiety about leaving the house at that point in time, so that's just what it ended up being.
And it starred what I would say is a national treasure, Tracy Neepanak. What was it like to still be able to bring it to the stage, and do you think there are other ways to adapt it?
Well, there is an online footage of the play that Prairie Theatre Exchange released, and then also the Stratford Festival released as a part of their online series. So I think that, putting theater into film is such a weird thing, but oddly enough, The War Being Waged, I felt, worked really well on stage and on screen. So I'm hoping that, more people will experience it that way.
Nice. Are you working on other plays?
Yes, actually, I am working on other plays, but those are a secret.
Oh, okay. Was theater, acting, writing, the arts, this all something you knew would be your career path one day?
I mean, I dreamed and I hoped about it, but it's not a solid decision. It's not like I'm going to be a doctor and I'm gonna be a doctor. When you want to be an actor or you want to be a writer, it really depends on, you know, the relationships that you build, the work that you put in, and how serious and disciplined you are in order to, you know, achieve that goal. So I feel like I always knew it was going to happen because I was going to do anything I could to make that happen. But it's not the same as a conventional career path, for sure.
Yeah. What were some of the things that you had to do to prepare yourself for that path?
I honestly think it was just going to school every single day. Like when I was in theater school, I didn't miss a single day of school unless I absolutely had to.
Right. I read a story from a number of years ago, but it seemed like your path to acting and writing wasn't an easy one right from high school, that you had to push back against stereotypes and other things like that. Can you tell us about some of those challenges?
Well, I think that I don't really remember much of what happened when I was a teenager. I think it just has a lot to do with the things that I went through in my life. But I can say that I wanted it so badly that I started taking drama and acting classes like outside of school, outside of like a regular high school drama class. And that was the thing that I felt really pushed me over the edge in terms of I actually want to spend all my time doing this, you know, and not just in school, like during regulated times.
Mm-hmm. Was there a moment when you felt like you were getting a big break?
I guess when I landed Little Bird, that was a huge break.
No
I cried.
kidding.
I cried, yeah.
And we're going to talk about Little Bird, obviously, in a few minutes, but I understand you nearly quit the business before Little Bird. Can you tell us about that?
Well, I was enrolled at Red River College. I was in school for business administration, and I was like, I'm leaving the business, I'm getting a regular job, I give up. It's not happening for me. And on top of that, I have a child. So I was like, I have to support my family, and I can't do it this way anymore because it's so unreliable. You know, being an actor, it's not necessarily you're guaranteed a job from month to month. So I was actually about to leave the business altogether. I had a plan. I was going to be a school bus driver in the mornings and then go to school and raise my daughter, and that was going to be it for me. And then Little Bird changed everything.
And like I said, we're going to talk a lot about Little Bird here. We're just going to step aside for a quick break, and then we'll continue the conversation here on Face to Face with performer and playwright Darla Contois. Stick around.
I can join?
Yeah, of course.
What I'll do, can I show her? Mom, you take this. It was the first medicine given to us by Creator. And put it in your left hand. And hold it. And you come around the fire this way, in this direction. And put the medicine in your right hand. And you pray. And your prayers get taken up to Creator when you offer the medicine to the fire.
Welcome back to Face to Face. Our guest this week is playwright and actress Darla Contois. And Darla, we had mentioned, you know, another big thing for you this year, obviously, was the lead role in the TV miniseries Little Bird, about the 60 Scoop, which debuted in May, still airing on APTN right now, and I think PBS maybe in the States. You played Bijik Little Bird and Esther Rosenblum, a First Nations woman who was adopted into a Jewish family at a young age. You know, so many big names involved in this project. How did you come to be part of it?
Well, honestly, it just happened, I feel like, through the amazing work of the universe. because I randomly got an email one day from a casting agent asking me to audition for the role. And as we talked about, I was actually considering leaving the business, and I told myself that this was the last audition I was ever going to do, and I was going to leave it all behind. I was going to put the career to bed. I was done. And they kept asking me for more auditions, but they were waiting like 3 to 10 weeks between letting me know that I actually had another audition. So every time it happened, I was like, okay, I didn't get it, whatever. And I kept getting more auditions, and then eventually I got a call from Jennifer Podemski at like 10 o'clock at night, and I was like, oh my God, she's calling me. Jennifer Podemski is calling me on the phone right now. And she told me I got the role, and I cried. I didn't really know how to process that moment. But it was magical, and that's how I came to be a part of it. And later learned that Devry Jacobs, one of the stars of Reservation Dogs, actually recommended me for the role because we have been friends since, I don't know, 2013 or 2015? I don't remember.
Nice. Devry's been on the show here. Good friend of the show, we'll say. Yeah, if you get a call from Jennifer Podemski about a role, you probably put aside your plans to be a bus driver, I guess.
Exactly.
What was it like? Jen Podemski's done a lot of productions, both in front, behind the cameras. You worked with some of the biggest names, past and present, on this production. Almaya Tailfeathers, Michelle Thrush, Eric Schweig. What was that experience like going into a production like this with names like that?
It was honestly really jarring because they were talking to me as if I was one of their friends, and I was like, in shock the whole time. Like the first time I ever met Almaya Tailfeathers, I was starstruck. I was like, oh my God, she's standing like 10 feet away from me. Oh my God, what do I do? I'm just a kid from the res, so I was like kind of in shock the whole time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we had Almaya on the show too, but it was deep COVID at that time, so we had her through Zoom, which was unfortunate. But were you on a production ever before like this where it's mostly all Indigenous people in front of and behind the camera?
No. And from what I hear, that's not something that happens very often. So it was a pretty magical experience. And oddly enough, learning later that it was something that doesn't happen very often, it just made me feel so much more lucky and grateful to be a part of that. Mm-hmm. But also, I feel like maybe my expectations are a little bit skewed for future projects, because I'm like, being on a set is just one big happy family, because that's what it felt like on Little Bird.
Yeah. It seems like that too when you watch the documentary on the behind the scenes. The 60 Scoop is also something that's personal to you and your family. Mm-hmm.
It is. Like, I don't know what you want me to say.
I mean, it's up to you if it's not something you want to talk about.
I mean, my dad was a part of the 60 Scoop, but I feel like that's his story to tell and to elaborate on. I can speak to, being a daughter of a 60 Scoop survivor, but I can't talk about what that actual experience was for him.
Was the feedback that you've received from people, like aside from documentaries, we don't see a lot of, film productions or TV depictions of the 60 Scoop. What was the feedback that you've received?
I mean, the feedback on set was always that the performance was really emotional for a lot of people on the crew. And after the show aired, a lot of people seemed to be really grateful and thankful that the story was represented as authentically as possible. So I think that makes me feel really good about, the work that happened when we were shooting.
It's aired on Crave and APTN Lumi in Canada. It's still on APTN actually right now. What's been your hope that people take away from the series?
I just hope that people understand the humanity of the things that have happened to us as Indigenous people and sort of can see themselves in what we've represented on screen.
Like I mentioned, there is a companion documentary that also goes with it called Coming Home, which I had a chance to watch last week. And in it talks about, how almost every single Indigenous person who worked on Little Bird has been impacted by the 60s Scoop, which is pretty crazy to think about. Did you feel a lot of pressure about the role and the representation?
I mean, I tried not to think about it because I felt like if I thought about it in that sense, it would have changed my own emotional experience portraying Esther and Beijing. So I tried not to think about it as much as possible, and I just tried to focus on what was happening in front of me because I wanted to, feel everything that I was feeling as authentically as possible on screen.
Like we said, there's not a lot that's been on the screen, aside from documentaries, really, about the 60s scoop and a lot of the issues that Indigenous peoples face. Do you think some of the success of this and other Indigenous-led programs will lead to more funding for these types of projects?
I would hope so. I also think that the capacity and talent that is among the Indigenous community is unprecedented, so I'm really hoping that this actually opens the door for many more projects to take place, and understanding that when we do work, we do great work. So just give us the money to do the work.
We're got to step aside for one more quick break, but then we'll continue the conversation here on Face to Face with actress and playwright Darla Contois. Stick around.
Yes, that's me.
I work for Child Protective Services. Is this the father?
Yeah.
I'll speak to the mother alone. Take the father out.
It'll be fine.
I'm not here to remove right now. I'm here to determine if the new child has appropriate care.
I'd like to stay.
And you are?
Her sister.
Any interruption to this process will mean a call to the police. You're receiving social assistance?
Yes.
Are you currently soliciting
No,
to supplement your income?
I'm not.
You have an address?
189 Oak Street, Regina.
If I went into your home right now, would I find a crib?
You would, yes.
Would I find food in the fridge?
We are
Diapers?
here to determine whether you are a fit
The
mother.
ability to support this child, pay for food.
Yes.
I'd like to ask a question. I'm a lawyer. Is my sister legally obligated to answer you?
Once a report has been received, it's in the parent's best interest to cooperate.
The baby was born this morning. I don't understand why there's a concern for care based on what?
Welcome back to Face to Face. Our guest this week is actress and playwright Darla Contois. Darla, with Little Bird now airing in the US and Canada, what's been the overall feedback from viewers?
The overall feedback has been really great. Like, I get personal messages from people who are so affected by the story that they're bringing it up at Thanksgiving dinner with their families now, which I think is really cool and really interesting that these conversations are happening now because of something like Little Bird.
Yeah, I mean, even for myself, I know people in the newsroom here were watching it with their parents. My mom lives 4 hours away. We were watching episodes every time she would come into the city for a visit. Is it a lot to handle playing such an impactful, powerful role?
I think that because of my training and because I've been doing this since I was 15 years old, there's a certain level of doing something and then letting it go that has to happen. So I feel like I've done a really good job at that. I think it's just more so now the face-to-face responses from people. I'm kind of an introvert, so I get really awkward about things like that, and I don't want to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing or offend people, but I'm still learning how to handle situations like that.
For sure. Have you been getting interest for other projects?
Honestly, because of the strikes in the States, not a lot has been happening for projects in Canada and in the States, so I'm just hoping that, next year happens to be a really good year for me again.
Let's hope so. What types of projects are you hoping for?
I'm honestly just hoping to feed my family.
Just anything that comes your way.
Yeah, I mean, I want to work, I want to do meaningful work, and I think that just that sense of family and that sense of, doing something that means something. With Little Bird, I hope to have that, in future projects as well. I would love to have a say in the writing and the storyline that goes into what we're making. I think that would be really great, but that's not always guaranteed as an actor. But I do have a specific skill set because I'm also a writer.
Yeah, like on that, you're an award-nominated writer. Do you have an interest in, obviously in the writing, but maybe the directing, producing projects down the road?
I'm actually interested in writing. Like I wrote a TV series that I'm just, hoping that a producer will want to work with me on.
You want to talk about it? You said you couldn't talk about your other projects.
I mean, this is like a TV project. The theater projects that I'm doing are not quite ready to be released to the public yet, but I did write a TV pilot that I'm hoping that people will be interested in.
Can't talk about that either.
I mean, I don't know what to say.
Well, what's it about?
It's about an Indigenous social worker, a woman who is working so hard to balance the children on her caseload and then also balancing raising her own family. So it's kind of this like, constant balancing act of, taking care of kids that are in the system and then also taking care of her own family.
Well, that sounds pretty good to me. Hopefully some producers out there are paying attention.
I know.
Do you feel like, like you said, the strike's been on. It's been a difficult time for actors and writers and everything. But do you feel like there are more roles than when you first started for Indigenous peoples out there?
I mean, I think Little Bird is a testament to that there are more roles available. Shows like Reservation Dogs, movies that are coming out that are not necessarily so rooted in, what we've seen in the past, which is, historical period pieces about Indigenous people. And, I'm more interested in the contemporary stories.
Maybe switching to a possible different career path to ask you about, you ran for politics in the past. Is that something that you might think about doing in the future as well?
I mean, I use my storytelling, acting, writing skills as a way to sort of be a leader in certain aspects of life. So I felt like, running for office and, trying to be a leader in a different way might have been something that was for me. But I think that I'm just destined, to be in the arts.
Yeah. Well, as somebody who did almost give it all up to be a part-time bus driver, what would be your advice to those out there that are trying to follow their dreams like you did?
Just don't give up. Just don't let anybody tell you no. You just make it happen any way that you need to make it happen. And I mean, with the internet and with things like TikTok and YouTube, there are so many ways to get your voice heard, and understanding that your experience as an Indigenous person is valuable to, the conversations that we're having in this country. I think it's really important to just, keep at it.
How important is it to do projects, like a lot of these projects that you've written, that you've been part of, seem like they're pretty personal to you? Maybe for writers out there, writing what you know?
Mm-hmm. That's honestly the best advice you can give anybody is, do what you know, write what you know. And I think that, having a unique perspective and unique understanding of the things that are happening to you and why they're happening could help you, do the work that you're doing and understanding it from many different angles.
Well, Darla, we hope that you have 2024 that's as big or bigger than 2023. Appreciate you doing the show with us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
That is all the time we have for this week's show. You can catch up on any episodes you may have missed by visiting our website. That's aptnnews.ca, or you can visit the APTN News YouTube page as well. This episode and all of our previous episodes are also available as podcasts, and you can find those wherever you download your podcasts. I'm Dennis Ward. Thanks for being with us this week on Face to Face. We'll see you back here in 7 days.